Hello friends, welcome you all to another video, and I hope that you have given your examination very nicely, and definitely you are going to get a very good and great score in your examination. So after the gap of I think 10 or 15 days after your examination over, we are going to resume our lectures. Actually, I should have started lecture before 1 week, but because of some work, it was delayed. And now today we are going to start with the paper number 4. And as you know that I have already posted our syllabus on our Google Classroom, so I hope that you are going to download that and again look at your syllabus. The first, we are going to start with the unit number first, that is the important terms, that is literary terms. And the first literary terms is the restoration period, the background of the restoration period. So without wasting any further time, let's get started. So you can see on your screen that what the Alexander Pope and what the Longman Anthology of British Literature has talked or written about the restoration period. It is the features of the restoration period. So the king openly proclaimed his love for parliaments, his devotion to the immemorial constitution of balance and moderation, his Protestant favor, and his poised hopes for a national church. That is the written by the British literature, Longman Anthropology, and Alexander Pope has written those rules of old discovered, not devised, nature still, but nature methodized. So these lines which was written by Alexander Pope, each actually it is a feature of the restoration parade. So let's get started, let's get begin. So the restoration parade takes its name from the restoration of the start line or charge second. You know that we have seen during the Caroline age and the beginning of the Commonwealth parade, we have seen that how the father of Charles II was persecuted by the people. Okay, it was a revolt against him, and he was persecuted. He was hanged till death, and his wife and the son, children, Charles II, also they have went back to the France. And now, after the collapse of Commonwealth government, after the death of Oliver Cromwell, the British people thought that English people thought that they should restore the throne. They need the king, and they don't understand the democracy because they wanted a king there. Okay, to and under the rule of the king, they wanted to develop the democracy. So therefore, they have uh, called him back, and in this way, the Charles II became the king of England, and therefore this name restoration is taken from the restoration of the Charles II to the English throne in 1660. So that is the important. Okay, so the the king again he ascended the throne, he became the king of England, and that is the restoration, and therefore that name is applied to the age, that is the restoration age. Okay, so you can say that the real name of this is neoclassical period, which started from 1660 and ended 1798 until the publication of relic ballads, which was jointly written by William Wordsworth and S.T. Corey. So you know everything. Okay, so this period started after the end of the Commonwealth, and it is specified at lasting until 700. Okay, because even though it is the restoration period, it is a part of the neoclassical period. Okay, okay, neoclassical, but already I have told you that it started from 1660 and it lasted until the publication of Regal Ballad. But we can say that it was until the 785, the death of Dr. Johnson. Okay, that is the period of that. Okay, and it lasted until 1700 because in the year 1700, the greatest poet, dramatist of this and critic also, the first English critic, that is the John Dryden, he died in the year 1700. So therefore it is the ending of the restoration period. Okay, the urbanity, wit, and licentiousness of life centering on the court, in sharp contrast to the seriousness and sobriety of the earlier Puritan regime. It's reflected in much of the literature of this age. The theaters came back to vigorous life. Okay, the theaters are open after the restoration of the king in 1660. It was closed in 1642. We know it in the Caroline age. Okay, in the before the fifth semester we have seen it all these things, and then theatre reopened. They came back to the vigorous life after the revocation of the ban placed on them by the Puritans in 1642. Although they became more exclusively oriented toward the aristocratic classes than they had been earlier. So the nominate and prominent playwrights of this age were Sir George Etheridge, William Wycherley, and William Congreve. They have written comedies or restoration comedies, which are we are going to see in the next our term, that is the restoration poetry. We are going to see, and restoration drama we are going to see in detail. And John Dryden also there, and John Dryden has developed a distinctive comedy of manners called restoration comedy. So these people have written or they have developed a restoration comedy. And Dryden, Thomas Otway, and other playwrights developed the even more distinctive form of tragedy called heroic drama. So that was the restoration tragedy, or heroic drama is another name for that. And Dryden, John Dryden was the major poet and critic, as I have already told you, and as well as one of the major dramatists also. And other poets were the satirist Samuel Butler is there, and the Earl of Rochester is there. There were notable writers in prose also. In addition to the master Dryden, there were Samuel Pepys, because he has written a first English diary. Sir William Temper is there. The religious writer and vernacular English writer, that is John Bunyan, is there. Okay, and the philosopher John Locke is also important part of this parade. And then Afra Bain, the first English woman, she has started living on writing. So living by her pen, okay, by writing stories and all these things. One of the most incentive and versatile authors of the age, wrote poems, highly successfully plays, and Orenco, the tragic story of a noble African slave, an important precursor of the novel she has written. And again, you can see the background again on your screen, which I have told you, I have described you. Again, I'm going to read it, and then we are going to end our lecture. The restoration refers to, as I have told you, it is restoration of monarchy when Charles II was restored to the throne of England following an 11-year Commonwealth parade, during which the country was governed by the Parliament under the direction of the Puritan General Oriel Cromwell. So he was died in 1658, and after his death there was a very this political event considered with, okay, changes in literary, scientific and cultural life of Britain. During this time, a premium was placed on the importance of human reason and on an imperial philosophy that held that knowledge about the world was through the senses and by applying reason to what we take in through our senses. Reason was an unchanging, unquestionably human characteristic that served as a guide for man. This time is often also called the age of reason or enlightenment, which we are going to see in different terms in detail. Characteristic of this period included observing human nature and nature itself, which were considered unchanging and constant. The age is also known as the neoclassical period, as I have told you. Writers of this time place great emphasis on the original writings produced by the classical Greek and Roman literature. The literature of this period limited that of the age of Caesar Augustus. Writers such as Horace and Virgil, and classical influences appearing prevalent in poetry with the use of rhyming, and in prose with its satirical form. The Augustans deemed classical literature as natural, that these works were the idealized models for writing. The neoclassical ideals of order, logic, restraint, accuracy, correctness, decorum would enable the practitioners of various art to imitate or reproduce the structures or theme of Greek or Roman originals. So Alexander Pope, actually, he was not a part of this Restoration period, but he was born in Restoration age, and the age followed Restoration age was the Augustan age, and it is also known as the age of Pope. Also, it started from 1700 to 1745, and the Alexander Pope was the dominant figure, as John Dryden was dominant figure, dominant poet, dramatist, and critic in the Restoration period, as Alexander Pope was the dominant poet and critic in the Augustan age. So further, Alexander Pope furthers this idea as he says, "Learn hence for ancient rules a just esteem. To copy nature is to copy them." In his book Essay on Criticism. The way to study nature is to study the ancient, the styles and rules of classical literature, closely allied with the emphasis placed on the classics and the unchanging rules of nature, was the belief that reason was an unchanging and unique human quality that served as a guide for a man. So, guys, I hope that you understood it. If you don't understood, please ask your questions. I'm there to solve your questions. So, thank you very much. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.